Have you ever looked around your home and felt like the walls were closing in? Not physically, but emotionally? Like every drawer, shelf, and closet is filled with things you don't really need. Yet somehow, they still have a grip on you? If you're over 60, you're not imagining it. Over time, we all gather things. Some of them are useful, others meaningful, and many just kind of stayed because we never made the choice to let them go. What once felt like a cozy, memory-filled space can slowly turn into a place that feels heavier than it should. Not just heavy with things, but with obligations. Dusting the knickknacks, stepping around old furniture, or searching for that one paper buried under years of other papers. It all starts to wear on your energy. And at this stage of life, peace, comfort, and ease matter more than ever. You've earned the right to live light, to walk into your kitchen, your bedroom, or your living room and feel free, not burdened. You deserve to wake up in a space that serves you, not a space that demands things from you. And that's what this video is really about. It's not about minimalism or getting rid of everything. It's about asking an honest question. What no longer serves me? And having the courage to answer it. Sometimes the hardest place to start is knowing where to begin. But you don't need to overhaul your entire home overnight. You just need a first step. One small choice to let go of something that no longer brings value to your daily life. And often, the simplest place to begin is the one nobody sees but everyone feels. The paperwork. It hides in drawers, files, cabinets, even under beds. Bills from 15 years ago, insurance papers for policies that expired long ago, stacks of old tax forms you swore you'd sort someday. Maybe there's even a box in your closet with papers from a job you retired from a decade ago. For many people, especially those of us over 60, paperwork becomes a quiet source of stress. It builds slowly, silently, until one day we realize we're spending more time managing what we don't need than actually enjoying what we do. There's something powerful that happens when you take a deep breath, set aside an afternoon, and finally decide to deal with it. You pull out the folders, turn on a little music, and go through them one by one. Some of them will be easy. An old phone bill from 2011? Gone. But others might give you pause. Maybe it's a receipt from when you bought your last car, or a letter from a company you used to work with. You might wonder, should I keep this? What if I need it? That hesitation is normal. But the truth is, most documents lose their usefulness after 7 years. Unless your accountant or the IRS told you otherwise. Those older tax forms can be shredded. Medical forms that have been replaced, old prescriptions, expired warranties. They don't need to stay. What you do want to keep is simple and surprisingly small. Your will, your social security information, current insurance policies, and maybe a few other essentials. Those can all fit in one neat folder. And knowing exactly where they are when you need them, that's a kind of peace that's hard to describe. I once knew a gentleman named Charles, a retired small business owner. His home office had slowly turned into a maze of boxes and binders. He always meant to go through it all, but it felt overwhelming. One weekend, with a little help from a friend, he finally did it. He let go of 12 boxes of outdated paperwork and kept one. Just one. He told me later that he hadn't realized how much mental space it had been taking up until it was gone. He said he felt like he could breathe again. That's what this is about. It's not just about freeing up space in your cabinet. It's about freeing up space in your mind. It's about letting go of the burden of someday and choosing to live more fully today. Once you've cleared out the paperwork, something shifts. You look around and realize you've got momentum. So you walk into the kitchen, open a few cabinets, and there it is. The next layer, small appliances, gadgets, things with cords and plugs and missing pieces. The blender that stopped working years ago, the second toaster oven you kept just in case, the rice cooker you never really figured out but didn't want to throw away because it was a gift. Over time, kitchens become storage units for things that were supposed to make life easier, but instead, they just take up space. And for many of us, especially as we age, a cluttered kitchen doesn't just feel overwhelming, it actually makes cooking harder, it makes cleaning slower, and it quietly adds frustration to something that should be simple. Here's the question to ask yourself. When was the last time I actually used this? If it's been a year or more, and especially if you had to dust it off to answer that question, it might be time to let it go. It's okay to donate it. It's okay to recycle it. You're not being wasteful. You're being intentional. You're choosing function over sentiment, and that's an act of self-respect. I remember visiting Marjorie, a warm, spirited woman in her 80s. Her kitchen had once been the heart of every family holiday. But as her children grew up and moved away, the shelves stayed full even though the dinners stopped happening. She had 3 blenders, 2 crock pots, an ice cream maker she'd used once in 1993. When her daughter came to visit, they decided to spend the afternoon sorting it out. They laughed, they reminisced, and yes, there were a few tears. But when it was done, the kitchen looked different, brighter, lighter. You could see the countertops. Marjorie told me later that even making her morning coffee felt better, like the space finally belonged to her again. That's the quiet gift of letting go. It's not about what you lose, it's about what you gain. Space, simplicity, and a sense of calm that lingers long after the clutter is gone. And sometimes, once the paperwork is cleared and the kitchen is calm, there's another place that starts calling for your attention. It's closer than you think, and you probably walk by it every day. It's time to open that closet. It's time to open that closet. You know the one. The door still closes just fine, but what's behind it? That's another story. Maybe it's the hallway closet stuffed with coats and scarves you haven't worn in years, or your bedroom wardrobe where clothes are crammed so tight that pulling out a single shirt feels like a small battle for many people in their 60s, 70s, or beyond. Our closets don't just hold clothes. They hold memories, expectations, and little whispers of who we used to be. But here's something most people don't say out loud. Those clothes that no longer fit, those shoes that pinch your feet, those dresses or slacks that made sense when you were working full-time, they aren't serving you now. They're just hanging there, taking up space, and sometimes making you feel like you're holding on to someone you no longer are. Let's be honest, our bodies change, our needs change, our days are different. And yet, so often, we hesitate to let go of clothing because it reminds us of when we were still working, or when we were traveling more, or just in case we need it again someday. But that someday often never comes. Meanwhile, every morning you're faced with a closet that doesn't make you feel at ease. It makes you feel frustrated. Imagine how it would feel to open your closet and only see clothes that actually fit you, that you feel good in, and that match the life you're living right now. Getting dressed becomes simpler. No more standing there for 15 minutes trying to decide what still works. No more shifting past outfits you'll never wear again. Just ease, just comfort, just you, now. If you're wondering where to begin, try this. Pick a day when you don't feel rushed. Pull everything out. Yes, everything. Place it on the bed. Then take a deep breath and start going through it one piece at a time. Ask yourself, do I wear this? Does it still fit? Does it feel good when I put it on? If the answer is yes, hang it back up. If not, it might be time to pass it on. And it's okay if some of those items make you pause. Maybe it's the jacket you wore to your grandson's graduation, or a dress from your 40th wedding anniversary. It's normal to feel a tug at the heart. That's the memory talking. And while the memory is beautiful, the fabric isn't the memory itself. You can take a photo of that piece if it means something to you. Or set aside a small memory box with a few truly special pieces, but let the others go. Let them find new life with someone who needs them today. I knew a man named Frank, widowed, quiet, a little reserved. His closet was filled with suits and ties from his years as a manager at a factory. He hadn't worn any of them since retiring, but he held on to them just in case. One winter, his daughter gently offered to help him sort through it all. They found 3 identical sweaters, still with tags on them, shoes he hadn't worn in over a decade, and more ties than anyone could count. By the end of that day, Frank had cut his wardrobe in half. And the next morning, he said something simple: "I feel lighter." Not just because the closet had space, but because he no longer had to face those quiet reminders of a life that had already changed. When you reduce what you no longer wear, you're not losing your past. You're making space for your present. You're allowing yourself to live with more ease, more confidence, and less visual noise around you. Your closet should feel like a place of comfort, not confusion. And that sense of clarity can ripple out into the rest of your home. You may start to notice how certain spaces feel crowded, not because of mess, but because of too much furniture or decor. Maybe there's a room in your home that's harder to move through than it used to be. The dining table with 6 chairs when only 2 are ever used. That heavy china cabinet filled with things you haven't touched in years. An extra recliner no one sits in. It adds up physically and mentally. A lot of us grew up in homes where more furniture meant more value. A full living room, a formal dining room, bookcases, side tables, curio cabinets. These things were signs of a home well built and well lived in. But over time, they can become more of a burden than a blessing. As we age, navigating around bulky pieces can actually become a hazard. Tripping, bumping into things, struggling to clean under or around furniture. It wears on us more than we realize. So here's something worth thinking about. Walk through your home slowly, like you've never been there before. Notice how it feels to move through each room. Are there areas that feel tight? Are there pieces of furniture you never use, but keep out of habit? Do certain decorations make you feel at peace? Or do they just fill the space? This isn't about stripping your home of everything. It's about letting each piece earn its place. If that corner cabinet hasn't been opened in 5 years, it might be time to ask whether it's still adding value to your life, or whether it's just taking up space. If that massive vase in the hallway feels like something you're always working around, maybe you can pass it along and enjoy the open space instead. Susan, a warm-hearted woman in her early 70s, once told me she felt surrounded by furniture ghosts. Each item had a memory attached: her mother's coffee table, her sister's old dresser, a dining set from a home she hadn't lived in since her 40s. It was all meaningful, but it was also making her feel trapped in someone else's life. One spring, she decided to let go of most of it. She kept her favorite chair, a small table for her coffee and books, and a few treasured photos. Her son took some of the other pieces, and the rest she donated. When I visited her a few weeks later, her home felt calm, spacious, like it finally matched the quiet simplicity she had been longing for. That's the beauty of releasing what you no longer need. You gain not just space, but clarity. You make your home safer, easier to clean, easier to enjoy. And more than anything, you create an environment that supports who you are today, not who you were 20 years ago. As you continue through this journey, you may notice one last area that feels a little different. Not because it's crowded with furniture or stacked with old papers, but because it's filled with emotion. And sometimes, that's the hardest kind of clutter to face, the kind that tugs at your heartstrings. Not because it takes up space on a shelf or a hanger, but because it lives in boxes, drawers, and corners of our homes that we rarely visit, yet always carry a quiet weight. These are the sentimental items. The greeting cards from loved ones long past. The shoeboxes of childhood drawings your children gave you when they were small. Faded photographs you haven't looked at in years. Little souvenirs from trips you barely remember. And gifts from people you haven't seen in decades. These things may seem harmless. They sit quietly, often untouched, almost invisible in your day-to-day routine. But make no mistake, they carry emotion. And emotion has weight. These items speak of the life you've lived, the people you've loved, the moments you once held close. So it's no wonder we struggle to part with them. Letting go feels like saying goodbye all over again. But here's something important to understand. Your memories don't live in the object. They live in you, in your stories, in the way your face lights up when you talk about that family road trip in '72, or your wedding day, or your daughter's first piano recital. You don't need to keep every ticket stub or every card to keep those memories alive. They're already part of who you are. Letting go of sentimental items isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing. Choosing what truly brings you joy, and choosing to release the rest with gratitude. Gratitude for what it meant, for the time it marked, and for the space it gave you to grow. If this kind of decluttering feels emotional, that's okay. It's normal. This process isn't about rushing through it. It's about honoring your past without being weighed down by it. Start small. Pick one box. Sit with it. Look through it slowly. Let yourself smile, laugh, even cry. Then ask, does this still bring me peace? Does this item deserve a place in my life today? If the answer is yes, find a special way to honor it. Maybe it deserves a spot on your bookshelf or a frame on the wall. If not, consider taking a photo to preserve the memory, and then gently let the item go. Some keepsakes can be passed along to children or grandchildren who might cherish them. Others can be donated or released, freeing you to make space for today's joys. I once knew a kind man named Howard, soft-spoken and thoughtful. His attic was filled with boxes of his children's school papers, old letters, even trophies from their youth sports teams. Most of it hadn't been touched in decades. With the help of his daughter, he began sorting. They created a memory corner in his living room. Just a small space with a few framed photos, a handwritten letter from his wife, and a small model airplane his son made. The rest, he let go. And in doing so, he found not sadness, but relief. I don't need to carry it all anymore, he told me. Just the best of it. And that's really the heart of it. You don't need to carry it all. Not every memory, not every object, just the best of it. The pieces that still bring you comfort, joy, and connection. You deserve a home that reflects who you are now, not just who you were then. When we declutter emotionally, we're not just making room on a shelf. We're making room in our hearts. For peace, for clarity, for new memories that are still waiting to be made. Because no matter your age, life isn't over. Your story is still unfolding. And the more space you create, the more freely it can grow. So here we are. We've talked about the things that fill our homes but no longer serve us. Outdated paperwork, unused appliances, overstuffed closets, bulky furniture, and sentimental items that weigh more than they help. Each of these things, in their own way, can create clutter, not just in our homes, but in our minds, our routines, and our hearts. And yet, each one is also an invitation, a chance to let go, to release what no longer supports the life you want to live, to make space, not just physically, but emotionally, for peace, clarity, and comfort. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to do it perfectly. And you don't have to give up anything you're not ready to part with. This is your journey, your home, your pace. Even one drawer, one shelf, or one small decision can create a ripple effect that makes the rest easier. There's something powerful about looking around your home and knowing that everything in it was chosen, intentionally, lovingly, with care. That's the kind of home that supports your well-being, that helps you breathe easier, that lifts your spirit when you wake up each morning. So I want to encourage you today, take one small step. Pick one area, one box, one item, and see what it feels like to let it go. Not because you have to, but because you're ready to feel lighter, more peaceful, and more present. That's not just cleaning, that's healing. If any part of this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share a moment in the comments. Maybe something you've recently let go of, or something you're thinking about clearing out. Your story might just encourage someone else to begin theirs. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to the Strong Elderly Life channel. Every time you support our channel, you help us keep creating the kind of thoughtful, empowering content that makes life after 60 not just manageable, but meaningful. You've spent a lifetime building your home, your memories, and your legacy. Now it's time to make sure your space gives back to you. You deserve to walk through your home and feel peace. You deserve ease. You deserve joy. Here's to living simply, living purposefully, and living your best life at any age.